Good day, class. So, welcome to our discussion today in our subject, Earth and Life Science. So, we're going to discuss today the hydrometeorological hazards, specifically the tropical storm, the monsoons, and tornado. But before we discuss our lesson today, you have to answer the following questions in your learning kit and think about it. Have you ever experienced any form of hydrometeorological hazard such as typhoon, tornado, or floods? How did you feel? And what did you do during and after the situation? We're going to answer that in your learning kit. So if you are done answering the think about it part of your learning kit, now let's discuss our lesson today. Let's first define monsoon. Showing here in our illustration is the direction of the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon that we have in the Philippines. First, what is monsoon? Monsoon is a seasonal reversal of wind, meaning ito yung pagbabago ng direksyon ng hangin. And in the Philippines, so we have two types of monsoon. We have the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon. The northwest monsoon, that is locally known as the habagat. And this wind is bringing frequent rainfall. And usually, it starts by May and ends by October. And how about the northeast monsoon? It is locally known as the amihan. And it is bringing little to no rainfall, and usually it starts by November and ends by the month of February. Yes, you can see, so that is, here is the direction of the northeast monsoon and the southwest monsoon. So the southwest monsoon, the characteristic of southwest monsoon is warm and humid, while the northwest monsoon is cold and dry. So, kapag madalas tayong nagkakaroon ng bagyo, malakas na pag-ulan, ang hangin na nagdadala sa atin ng mga pag-ulan ay ang southwest monsoon o ang hanging habagat. Okay. While the southeast monsoon naman, so ito yung hangin or the amihan, yan yung hangin na nagdadala ng malamig na temperature. Okay, why? Because as you can see in the direction, it is northeast monsoon. So yung kanyang hangin, so natatangay niya yung lamig na nasa part ng North Pole or specifically the Siberia, wherein marami dong mga yelo at malamig yung season doon. So tinatangay ng hangin na amihan yung lamig papunta sa atin. Okay? So that is the difference between southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon. So remember, the southwest monsoon is the habagat and the northeast monsoon naman, that is the amihan. Right. So usually, we are hearing these three terms. So I'm sure that you have heard these terms, the typhoon, hurricane, and cyclone. So, ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba nila? What are the difference between that three terms? So, let's discuss now. So, typhoon, cyclone, and hurricane, they are the same type of storm. However, what is their differences? They are named depending on where they formed. And let's see. So the typhoon, we call the storm or the tropical storm as typhoon when it is formed in Northwest Pacific Ocean. Right? So as you can see in the picture, so that is the direction of, or that is where this typhoon formed in Northwest Pacific Ocean. Okay? So as you can see, dito yung ating bansa or our country, Philippines. That's why yung mga namumuong mga bagyo sa atin, okay, we use the term as typhoon. Next, so the cyclone, so saan naman siya nabubuo? Cyclone usually forms in South Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean. So, yan yung nasa baba. Usually, yan yung mga nasa baba ng Philippines. Okay? Mga bansang nasa ibaba ng Philippines, kapag ka nagkakaroon sila ng mga bagyo, ginagamit nila ang term na cyclone. Then, how about the hurricane? Okay, the hurricane forms in Northeast Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. So, yan naman ngayon yung mga bagyo na namumuo sa part ng Amerika. That's why they are using the term hurricane. Alright, so, kita natin, yan yung mga direction or kung saan namumuo yung iba't ibang mga bagyo. Okay? Dito sa part natin, tinatawag natin yan na typhoon. Dito naman, cyclone. And on the part of America, ginagamit nila yung term na hurricane. Okay, ano ang pinagkaiba uli ng tatlo, ng typhoon, cyclone, and hurricane? So, lahat sila ay mga bagyo. However, gumagamit tayo ng iba't ibang term, depende kung saan silang ocean nabuo. Alright. Now, okay, by international agreement, the term tropical cyclone is used by most countries to describe cyclonic storms that originate over tropical ocean. Okay, although we have different terms such as typhoon, cyclone, and hurricane, but by international agreement. So most countries, we are using the term tropical cyclone. Okay, and in our country, Philippines, we usually call tropical cyclone as bagyo. Okay, that is our term, okay, for tropical cyclone. So this agency or institute, we have the PAG-ASA. So what is the acronym PAG-ASA mean? So it means Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration. So what is the responsibility of PAG-ASA? Okay, so just like the PHIVOLCS, which is responsible to mitigate disaster brought by geotectonic phenomena, so PAG-ASA, so they are responsible in giving information about weather condition, about climate, okay, such as typhoon. So they are monitoring the typhoon whenever the typhoon or tropical cyclone enters the PAR or Philippine Area of Responsibility. That is the moment when the PAG-ASA will monitor the direction or the track of the typhoon. Okay. And by the moment that a low pressure area or a typhoon enters the Philippine Area of Responsibility, that is the moment they are going to name the typhoon. Okay. They're going to change the international name of typhoon and they're going to name it, give the name of the typhoon. Like for example, so the Typhoon Yolanda. So the international name of Typhoon Yolanda is Haiyan. And when it enters the Philippine Area of Responsibility or the PAR, so binago na ng PAG-ASA or nagbigay na ang PAG-ASA ng pangalan sa typhoon na yon. Okay, and tinawag na nga siya as Typhoon Yolanda. Then, the Bagyong Carding na nangyari lang kamakailan. So, the international of Typhoon Carding is Noru. Then, when it enters the Philippine Area of Responsibility, pinangalanan na siya ng PAG-ASA as Bagyong Carding. Right, so next. So, tropical cyclone. So, what is the meaning of that? So, it begins as a low pressure center over an ocean with strong circulating wind. High humidity and ocean temperature with over 26 degrees Celsius are major contributing factor in the development of tropical cyclone. Right, so that is how a tropical storm or cyclone are formed. So first, so the high humidity and ocean temperature over 26 degrees Celsius are major contributing factor. Okay, that's why yung mga bagyo natin, so namumuo sila or nag-start silang mag-form sa mga oceans natin, specifically in Pacific Ocean. So, first the water evaporates from the ocean surface and comes into contact with a mass of cold air, forming cloud. Then, what happened next? A column of low pressure develops at the center. Winds form around the column. Nagsisimula nang mamuo yung circulation of wind. Then after that, as pressure in the central column, which is the eye of the tropical cyclone, weakens, the speed of the wind around it increases. And mabubuo na ngayon yung tinatawag natin na tropical storm or the typhoon or bagyo. Right, so in the Philippines, winds circulate in counterclockwise direction. Okay, paano ba yung counterclockwise direction? So, instead na para siyang clock, paano ba yung movement or nung arm ng mga clock natin? So, pag ganyan. So, instead na pag ganyan ng ikot, okay, counterclockwise. Okay, in opposite direction nung ating clock. Ganyan namumuo ganyan yung direction or circulation ng ating wind. And nagmumula siya dito, okay, paikot na ganyan. And ano nga uli yung hangin na nagmumula dito sa southwest? So, yun yung tinatawag natin na hanging habagat. Kaya nga nagdadala siya ng pag-ulan sa bansa natin. Okay, dahil ganyan ang ikot ng circulations of wind or ganyan ang ikot ng hangin sa Pilipinas. Right, so the classifications of tropical cyclone. Okay, so the classification of tropical cyclone is depending on their strength and their wind speed. Yan, depende sa lakas ng pag-ulan at sa lakas or bilis ng hangin. So, when a tropical cyclone has wind speed of 61 km per hour or less, so the term we use is tropical depression. Okay. Now, we call them as tropical storm when it has 62 to 88 km per hour wind speed. Then, severe tropical storm when it has 89 to 117 km per hour wind speed. And typhoon when it has 118 to 218 km per hour wind speed. And super typhoon when it is more than 220 km per hour wind speed. And that's why the tropical or the super typhoon Yolanda, we call that as super typhoon because it has more than 220 km per hour wind speed. So, ganun yung lakas niya. Right? So, bakit ba nagkakaroon tayo ng iba't ibang classification ng tropical cyclone? So, remember that the typhoon, so mamumuo siya, diba, sa ocean. So, hanggang tumatagal siya sa ocean, hanggang siya ay nagtatravel through the ocean, so siya ay nag-accumulate ng marami pang mga hangin at mga pag-ulan. Kaya, lumalakas yon. And habang lumalakas nga siya, nade-determine natin yung kanyang strength and wind speed, kaya naman nakaklassify natin siya into this classification of tropical cyclone. Okay, so what happened? Dito lang nakaraang araw. So we have the super typhoon Karding. So nung hindi pa nakakapag-landfall si Bagyong Karding, so siya ay in the category of super typhoon. Now, because we have the Sierra Madre, which is the longest mountain ranges in the Philippines, so noong malapit ng mag-landfall or nung naglandfall na ang Bagyong Karding dito sa Philippines, nung tumama siya sa Sierra Madre or that mountain ranges, so napahina siya. Kaya naman, from super typhoon, naging ang kanyang classification na lang ay typhoon. Okay. At mas lalo pa siyang humina ng humina noong siya ay nagdaan na sa kalupaan ng Pilipinas. Okay, kaya humina na siya ng humina. Next, let's discuss the tropical cyclone structure. We have the eye wall, and rain bands. Right, so the eye, o yan yung mata ng bagyo, which is the center, that is the very center of the storm, that is cloud-free and mostly calm weather. Okay, kaya minsan kapag yung mata ng bagyo, like for example, ang mata ng bagyo ay nasa Bulacan. So, hindi natin gaanong mararamdaman ang lakas ng hangin at ng ulan. Okay, dahil tayo ay nasa mata ng bagyo. So, saan ngayon nararanasan yung mga malalakas na pag-ulan? So, yan yung mga nararanasan ng mga tinatamaan ng eye wall. Okay, what is eye wall? It consists of a ring of tall thunderstorms that produce heavy rains and usually the strongest wind. Right, so yung paligid na yan, mula dito sa eye, yung paligid ng mata ng bagyo or the eye, yan yung tinatawag natin na eye wall. Nandyan ang mga malalakas na hangin at mga pag-ulan, and usually may kasama pa siyang thunderstorm, may mga pagkulog at pagkidlat. Next, we have the rain bands. So the rain bands produce a significant proportion of total rainfall of a tropical cyclone. These bands are capable of producing heavy bursts of rain and wind as well as tornadoes. So yan din naman yung nagdudulot ng mga pag-ulan. Yan yung nasa paligid naman ng eye wall. So, nagdadala din yan ng mga matitinding pag-ulan at mga hangin. And usually nga, so, diyan namumuo yung mga tornadoes natin. Alright, now let's discuss the thunderstorm. Okay, what is a thunderstorm? So, it is or characterized by strong winds, heavy rain, lightning, and thunder. So basically, ito yung mga pag-ulan na hindi lang siya basta umuulan. Meron siyang kasamang mga pagkulog at pagkidlat. We call that as thunderstorm. So what causes the thunderstorm and how it forms? So thunderstorm occur when masses of warm and moist air along the Earth's surface are rapidly forced upward into colder, drier layers. And as the warm air is forced upward, it cools and condenses, forming cumulonimbus clouds. So during thunderstorms, area of positive and negative electrical charges build up in the storm clouds. That's why the lightning is produced. Okay, how the lightning or yung mga pagkidlat, how it forms. So, lightning is produced when a sudden spark of electricity jumps between these clouds or between a cloud and the ground. The lightning causes the air to heat and expand explosively. Okay, and what is that explosion that we hear from the lightning? So, that is the thunder or yung kulog. Okay, it is a loud sound caused by the pressure wave that accompanies lightning. Okay, that's why, as we can notice, kapag ka nagkakaroon ng mga pagbagyo or pag-ulan, so ano ang nangyayari? So kapag ka nagkaroon ng pagkidlat, so it accompanies or it is followed by the thunder or yung pagkulog. Now let's discuss the tornado. Okay, so tornado is locally known as ipo-ipo. So here in the Philippines, we use that term, ipo-ipo. Okay, it is a whirling funnel-shaped cloud, and it is developed in low, heavy cumulonimbus clouds. So the area at the bottom of this funnel is swirling air, has an extremely low air pressure. When this low pressure point touches the ground, it acts like a giant vacuum cleaner. It lasts only for a few minutes. Okay, the formation of the tornado, it has something to do with the low air pressure and high air pressure. Alright, next, let's discuss flood. Okay, what is flood? It is rising and overflowing of water that submerges land that is usually dry. So what causes flood? So we have different types of flood. We have the fluvial flood or the river flood, and the pluvial floods, and the coastal flood. Okay, first, let's discuss the fluvial flood or the river flood. So it usually occurs when the level of water in a river or lake rises and overflows onto the surrounding banks and nearby areas due to excessive rain. Okay, paano ba nagkakaroon ng mga pagbaha? So yes, it is because of the typhoon or excessive rain. Okay, but ang iba't ibang klase ng flood ay depende kung saan siya nanggaling. Okay, like for example, the pluvial floods or river floods. So usually, this flood occurs when the river overflows. Okay, kapag ka nagkaroon ng mga malalakas na pag-ulan, dahil tumataas na ang level ng water sa river, so saan siya mapupunta? So aapaw ngayon ang tubig sa river at mapupunta siya sa mga kabahayan or sa mga bahay. That's why magkakaroon ng pagbaha. Right, so these are the pictures showing the river floods. So, yung mga river natin, specifically, this picture is from the Marikina River. So, we have that water level. They are monitoring the water level of the river. Okay, as you can see, so 16. So, when it reaches the 16 meters level of water, so that is the second alarm. So, pag iyan ay sumobra na sa 16 or nag-18 na, so that is, kailangan na talagang lumikas ng mga tao na malapit doon sa ilog. Right, so, diyan nila na monitor kung kailangan na ba or aapaw na ba yung river. And the next, we have the pluvial floods. It occurs when heavy and continuous precipitation creates flood. So still, yung palaging pag-ulan or the excessive rain, it causes flood. But it has two types, the pluvial floods. We have the surface water floods and the flash floods. Okay, what happened during the surface water floods? So it happened when an urban drainage system is obstructed and water flows out into the streets and nearby structures. This type of flood occurs slowly, which provides people time to move to safe or higher places. So these pluvial floods, which is the surface water floods, so because of excessive and continuous raining or rainfall, so naiipon yung mga tubig ngayon. So what is the major contributing factor in the pluvial floods or the surface water flood? Yung mga hindi maayos na mga drainage system. Okay? Usually, yan yung mga example ng surface water floods. So, yung mga surface water floods natin, so, nagkakaroon ng mga pagbaha dahil hindi maayos yung mga drainage system natin. Baradong mga kanal, okay, walang maayos na drainage system. Kaya naiipon ngayon yung tubig kapag nagkakaroon ng pag-ulan. And usually naman, yung mga surface water flood, iyan yung paunti-unti lang yung pagtaas ng tubig. At sabi nga sa definition kanina, so it gives people time to move into a higher places. So hindi agad siya gaanong tumataas. Then how about the flash floods? So the flash floods are characterized by an intense high-velocity torrent of water caused by torrential rain falling within a short amount of time within the vicinity or on the nearby elevated area. They can also occur through sudden releases of water from water reservoir such as dam. It is dangerous and destructive. So this flash flood naman, so iyan yung rumaragasang ang flow ng baha. Okay, and that is usually mabilis yung pagtaas ng baha diyan sa flash flood. So, ano-ano yung mga nangyayari dyan? So, maaaring yung tubig ay nanggaling sa itaas ng bundok. Okay, at rumaragasa ang kanyang pagdaan at mapupunta siya sa mga bahayan. Magkakaroon ng pagbaha. Ano pa? It can also occur to the sudden release of water sa mga dam natin or water reservoir. Right? That's why, yung nangyari nga dito sa Bagyong Carding, doon sa specifically in the municipality of San Miguel, Bulacan. Yung nangyari sa kanila na yon, we can categorize that as flash flood. Why? Because ang pinakadahilan talaga kung bakit nagkaroon ng pagbaha, or nakita nyo naman, as you can see on the social media, yung mga pictures. So, almost, I think, parang hanggang dibdib na yung taas ng tubig. Okay? And malakas yung current ng water. That's why meron pa nga mga tinangay ng pagbaha, at unfortunately, namatay sila, yung mga, specifically yung mga rescuer natin, at yung isang tatay na 62 years old na tinangay din ng baha. So, nanggaling kasi yon dahil 3 dam yung nagpakawala ng tubig. Dahil nga sa mga dam, dahil sa excessive rain, hindi na din kayang i-hold ng dam yung tubig. That's why, bago pa man masira yung dam, dahil nga sa dami ng tubig na nandoon, naipon sa water reservoir, kailangan na talaga nilang magpakawala ng tubig. At dahil nga, ang San Miguel, Bulacan ay mababang lugar, so sa kanila napunta ang mga tubig na nagmula sa dam, at nagkaroon nga ng flooding, wherein we can categorize as flash floods. Okay, so these are the example of flash floods. Mabibilis na pagtaas ng tubig, yung term nga na ginagamit yun, yung pagragasa ng tubig. Next, we have the coastal flood. So it occurs right along coastal lines. It is the inundation of land areas along the coast by sea waters. Common reasons of coastal flooding are intense windstorm events occurring at the same time as high tide and tsunami. So ito naman yung mga pagbaha doon sa mga nearby coastal areas. So meron nga tayong one type of coastal flood, which is the storm surge. Yan yung example ng coastal flooding. Right, yung mga tinatangay ng malalakas na hangin, yung tubig mula dun sa bodies of water, like for example sa dagat or sa oceans, so tinatangay siya papunta sa mga kabahayan. Okay, storm surge. I know that you have heard of this term, the storm surge. So it is an abnormal rise in seawater level as a result of atmospheric pressure changes and wind associated with storm. So it often causes devastating loss of lives and properties. So this is storm surge. So ayan yung mataas na wave ng tubig. Okay, so usually yung mga nakatira sa mga in coastal regions, malapit sa mga karagatan, sa mga dagat. So kapag ka nagkaroon ng mga bagyo, so dahil sa malalakas na hangin at sa malalakas na pag-ulan, so tinatangay yung mga mataas na wave ng water, at iyon yung tumatama sa mga kabahayan at nagkakos din siya ng flooding. Okay? The Typhoon Yolanda. Okay, that's why maraming mga namatay during Typhoon Yolanda. It is because of the storm surge. So hindi kasi na-anticipate na ganun pala kalakas yung magiging bagyo. Kaya naman, nagkaroon ng storm surge at hindi nakalikas agad yung mga tao na malapit doon sa dagat. That's why, noong tumama sa kanila ang storm surge, so unfortunately, may mga namatay. So these are the example of storm surge. Alright, next, let's discuss the coastal ecosystem. Okay, ano ba yung coastal ecosystem and what it is? So it occurs where the land meets the sea, and that includes a diverse set of habitat types like the mangroves, coral reefs, seagrasses beds, estuaries, and lagoons, backwaters, and etc. The coastal ecosystem is very important because they provide resources and services. When we talk about resources, so those are the marine plants, animals, crude oil, natural gas, minerals, salts, and constructions materials such as the gravel and sand. So it means that we get this benefit from the coastal ecosystem. Then how about when it comes to services, what it provides? So the coastal ecosystem provides services like recreation, transportation, shoreline protection, sustaining biodiversity, and potential source of renewable energy, such as the wave, tidal, and ocean thermal energy conversion, or the OTEC. So after we discuss the hydrometeorological hazards, now let's tackle the coastal hazard. So the coastal hazard are the physical phenomena that expose the marine environment to risk of property damage, loss of life, and ecological degradation. And we have three types of coastal hazards. We have the coastal erosion, the submersion or the coastal submersion, and the saltwater intrusion. So what is coastal erosion? It is the wearing down of the coastal line by the movement of wind and water. The shoreline plays an important role to society, like in transportation, fishing, and tourism. So what happened in coastal lines? So, yung lupa, okay, na malapit doon sa tubig, so kapag ka nagkakaroon ng malakas na hangin, malakas na mga wave, so natatamaan yan ng mga tubig mula doon sa dagat, at kapag ka tumama yan doon sa mga lupa, so nagkakaroon ng pagbuho ng lupa, nagiging liquefied, lumalambot yung lupa, at tinatangay siya ngayon nung alon na humahampas doon sa lupa. Kaya nagkakaroon ng coastal erosion. Ito pa yung mga example. We have three main classification of stabilizing the shoreline. So we have the hard stabilization, the soft stabilization, and the retreat. So this stabilization of shoreline, so yan yung mga ginagawa natin ng mga treatment or action on where we can prevent coastal erosion. So hard stabilization. So it is done by building structures that will slow down the erosion on areas that are prone to erosion. What are the examples of that? Hard stabilization. We have the jetties or jetties, seawalls, and breakwater. So the breakwater. So yan yung mga bato-bato na nilalagay natin, okay, doon sa coastal areas. As you can see here. Yan. So, kapag ka nagagawi kayo ng Manila Bay, so makakakita din kayo ng mga ganyan, ng mga malalaking mga bato, okay, na nilalagay sa paligid. Okay, kaya yun yung tatawag natin na breakwaters. And what else? So, ayan pa, the jetties, and the seawalls. So, yan naman yung naglalagay tayo dito na instead of rocks, sinisemento yung paligid noong malapit sa coastal areas. So we have the soft stabilization, wherein it includes processes of beach nourishment, wherein sand from an offshore location is brought to an area with the receding shorelines. So it does not make use of structures like ones used in hard stabilization. So here in soft stabilization, so wala tayong ginagamit na iba't ibang mga structures such as paglalagay or pagsisimento ng mga paligid ng shorelines. Okay? Ano lang yung mga ginagawa natin dito? Like for example here, so instead na magtayo tayo or sementohin natin yung shoreline, so ano yung ginawa when we use the soft stabilization? So gumamit ng mga lupa na nilagay sa mga sako at iyon yung ginawang pangharang doon sa shoreline. Next, we have the retreat. This retreat stabilization, so this is used for severe coastal erosion. So the authorities no longer attempt to save the shoreline but rather limit the amount of human interference in the area. So in retreat, so ito na talaga yung hindi na kayang i-save yung shoreline. That's why instead of putting hard or using hard or soft stabilization, so nililimit na lang yung mga tao na pumunta doon sa coastal area. Next, we have the submersion. It happens because of the changes in the sea level, specifically when it rises dangerously above the normal level. Most likely to occur in reclaimed land, originally part of the ocean, river beds, or lake beds. So this submersion, usually nangyayari siya sa mga reclaimed land or when yung originally part of the ocean na tinambakan lang ng lupa. So there are factors affecting the coastal submersion. First, the increase in global temperature, and second is the vertical movement of the plates. Next is the saltwater intrusion. It is the movement of salt water into the freshwater aquifer. So what is the aquifer? It is an underground layer of permeable rock, gravel, sand, or silt. So that is what happening in the saltwater intrusion. Okay, ano yung nangyayari? Okay, as you can see, ito yung ating seawater. So we all know yung mga seawater natin, yan yung mga containing salt or yung mga alat na tubig alat. So, at kapag yan ay nagkaroon ng intrusion or nakapasok siya dito ngayon sa fresh water natin na nasa ilalim ng lupa, so nagkakaroon ngayon ng intrusion. Okay? So dito ngayon napupunta yung tubig alat. Okay? At ang nangyayari ngayon ay nagkakaroon ng contaminations of water at hindi na nagiging maganda yung quality ng fresh water natin dahil nagkaroon na ng salt water intrusion. Usually, ano nangyayari dyan? Bakit nagkakaroon ng salt water intrusion? Dahil yung ating shoreline, hindi na siya ganoong katatag. Nagkakaroon na ng pagkasira dito sa shoreline natin at pumapasok na ngayon yung tubig dito sa loob. Doon sa underground water natin at humahalo siya sa fresh water. Now, what causes saltwater intrusion? So, the natural flow is that the fresh water, which is less dense, move toward the denser salt water. Okay, but if the fresh water is being withdrawn faster than it is being replenished, then there will be a change in the pressure and saltwater intrusion will occur. Okay, so dapat sana, the fresh water, sila yung mag-move towards the denser salt water. Dapat sana ay si salt water ang mapupunta or mag-move towards the salt water, kaya lang nagkaroon ng changes. Okay, ano yung nangyari? Instead na yung fresh water ang mapunta kay salt water, si salt water ngayon ang napunta kay fresh water. Kaya nagkaroon ng salt water intrusion. How to mitigate the coastal erosion, submersion, and saltwater intrusion? Okay, so here are the mitigation of those coastal hazards. So first, the political through legislation that define proper zoning, better land use planning and conversion, proper waste disposal and regulated mining and quarrying. Then, structural through the use of hard and soft structures include breakwaters and seawalls. Okay, by using the shoreline stabilization, beach nourishment, then the coastal revegetation, o yung pagtatanim malapit doon sa mga coastal areas or the shoreline. So those are the mitigations of coastal erosion, submersion, and saltwater intrusion. So that ends our discussion about the hydrometeorological hazards and coastal hazards. Right, so now let's discuss your activities that you're going to answer in your learning quiz. So in your task to do, task number 1, which is the hazard map. So using this hazard map, you're going to locate and list down the 10 cities which are prone to flooding. You're going to list down here those cities that are prone to flood. And then task number 2, you're going to have or to make a poster a poster making. Okay, you are going to create a poster with the theme Filipino Resiliency Amidst Calamities and Disasters. You may use the back page of your learning kit, or you can use a separate sheet of paper. And you are going to be scored using these criteria. So relevance to the theme, you have there 10 points. Creativity, 5 points. Originality, 5 points. Total of 20 points. You can use any coloring materials. Okay, be creative in creating poster making. Things to ponder. So why it is important to identify places that are prone to hydrometeorological hazards. We're going to explain that in not less than 5 sentences. And in Test Yourself, you're going to have a matching type. You're going to match column A with the corresponding item in column B. You're not going to connect the lines, but you're going to put the letters of your answer on the spaces provided. So that ends our discussion today. I hope that you learned something about the hydrometeorological hazard and the coastal hazard. So thank you for listening and watching this video lesson. So see you again next week.